Mental Health Awareness Month. May is the month that we talk more about mental health. We celebrate it, we raise awareness. As well, May is special because it's Mother's Day. Mother's Day is right around the corner. So, to all of our mothers, we want to wish you a very special Mother's Day. And to all of those that may not have moms, our thoughts and our prayers are with you. Today we have an incredible guest with us, Dr. Shani Glaude, and we'll be talking about healing and transforming mental health in the African American community. We want you to do us a favor and lift this message up and share it out. Today we're going to be talking about resilience and healing, and we know that these are areas in our community, specifically black and brown communities, where we tend to struggle the most. So Dr. Shani is going to talk to us about her experience, as well as some tools that she's been using to work with children, families, and adults around mental health. Dr. Shani, thank you so much for joining me again. Happy to have
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'll read your bio, and then I would love for you to maybe add anything that I left out
Sure.
to that, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Okay.
Dr. Shani Glaude is a licensed clinical professor counselor. She earned her bachelor's from Spelman College and her master's from Townsend University and doctorate in clinical psychology from Argosy University. Over the past 17 years, she has worked in a variety of settings, but she has loved the private practice setting the most. Dr. Claudia values being able, I love that, to be creative and flexible in her work with clients. She specializes in relationship repair and redesign, and she is most passionate about her African American community. That's awesome. Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I also have done a little bit of supervision work. If I had to join my passion for the field and then the passion for the African American community, it's mentoring other potential people of color who want to go into the field. The mentorship piece is huge. I didn't have much of a mentor coming into it, and I fumbled a lot trying to get here, just trying to figure out the lane that I wanted to be in and navigating the licensures and all of that. And sometimes it can be discouraging. So mentoring other people of color to get into the field, because we need them. Where it's not, I think
Absolutely.
we're like 7% of the country, people of color in this field. It's awful. So
Yeah,
more of them. Um,
absolutely.
but I know people can get lost on this journey because it's a lot of years of work.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the mentorship part and um, the lack of black and brown therapists, psychologists, mental health counselors, and we need so much more because the black and brown community needs a lot of healing. We also need healing our way. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Healing our way. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Dr. Claudia, I want to start with the first question. Could you share what inspired you to pursue a clinical psychology career?
It wasn't a straight line. I had I struggled almost invisibly when I was growing up,
Sure.
and I didn't know what to call some of the things that I was going through. I
Mhm.
sometimes I just thought it was normal. I thought what I was feeling was like stuff everybody feels. I thought some stuff I was doing was things everybody else was doing. And it wasn't until, I talked to I have an aunt who's in the field, and I had a class in high school, a psychology class in high school, and it gave some of the things that I was experiencing a name.
Mhm.
And once I realized that I could call it something else, I didn't have to call it lazy. I didn't have to call it irrational. I didn't have to misrepresent my experience the way that I was. Once I found names for it, I just became very curious about the field after that. I was like, oh, this is why my family does this. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm feeling this. There's a name for it. I'm not weird. I'm not crazy. That kind of
Yes.
thing. And I think that's what like sparked my initial curiosity in the field. And then it went all kinds of ways from there. That was the beginning.
That's the beginning. Oh, you know, I always feel Dr. Shane is something powerful about naming because when you give name to something, you can identify it, and when you can identify it, now you can start to deal with whatever you've been facing. Is it? It almost also validates that this is an actual something, right? And so I love that you talked about being a child and not necessarily knowing what you were experiencing, but when you found the names for it, that was your sort of your segue into what you're doing today.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can talk a little bit about the zigzag part of like your career. 'Cause I feel like some people feel like, oh no, I just woke up and I knew what I wanted to do, but
Oh
I need to
gosh.
hear that part too.
No, it was super strange. Like I wanted to be a stand-up comedian at one point. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be a writer. I mean, it was just like all kinds of things. Um, but I think it was my mom that said this. She was like, whatever you do with your life, it really needs to be something that you can eat, sleep, and breathe because it's going to
Yes.
be like so much a part of your life. And
Yeah.
we know that if you do work, and unfortunately, work is too big a percentage of our lives. But
Yeah.
if it's going to be that way, it really should be something that you like feel good about.
Yeah.
And I think she knew me, like, just as a person that I do better with the things that I'm passionate about. I just perform better in those places. If I have to do something that I hate, I'm not really doing it that well. So once I got into the curiosity of it, like it was a little bit of an obsession. You know, I love to read about it. You didn't have to beg me to study about it. You know, you didn't have to
I like
like
that.
push me to learn. I wanted to learn. And then I just started using it a lot. And just my understanding of myself, my understanding of my friendships, my understanding of my family. So I jumped to a lot of different topics. I first got really into children and family work.
Mhm.
So
Mm.
I would do in-home family therapy, and I loved that for a while, but the burnout is real.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just you
Oh
see
yeah.
a lot. Yeah, you
Oh
see
yeah.
a lot, you hear a lot, you really wanna help, and then the percentage of the people that you can help in the communities I was in, it feels almost like you get a little helpless.
Oh yeah.
Um, like, gosh, the work is so big, I don't know if I can muscle it all, and, then I moved into more relationship work because what I realized is that even though I wanted to focus on the kids, if the parents weren't well, the kids couldn't be well.
That's right.
So then I moved to the adults and I moved to their relationship dynamics and then their relationship dynamics with the children. And then that turned into me doing more relationship marital counseling with folks. And then that made another pivot into like, okay, relationships is just the thing. Relationships that I really love to do.
Yeah.
And that has gotten very broad. So that could be friendships, that could be parent-child dynamics, that could be marital
Incredible.
dynamics, it could be dating dynamics, it could be relationship to self, and really relationship to, gosh, just your experience. Um, Balance to me is having like a healthy relationship with all the things in your life that are important. Healthy and balanced doesn't mean you're putting in 100% of everything that's in your life. That's madness. Don't even do it.
Tell us a little more about that, because I love that you said that. There's so much things I love that you said that I probably won't have time to say it right now, but that idea of like anything you do, you got to put 100%. Then what's left of you? Like, tell us a little more about like
Nothing.
that.
There's nothing left of you after that. And if you have your hands full, your plate full, let's say our generation of parents, and so I'm 40, and so the parents who are raising young kids, also taking care of parents, have siblings, friends, work. Imagine trying to put 100% into all those things. You'll crash. You'll crash. There's no way.
Absolutely.
So, healthy relationship with those things just means like, you know, do you have an understanding of like what those things mean to you, the prioritization of that. Are you caring for yourself enough to even pour into those things? And so it's almost like you got to bump yourself to the top of the list so that you can trickle back everything into everybody else. Can't do it unless you do that. Um, I think that's our biggest mistake in this community. We value resilience, we value dedication, we value that hard work, but almost to like a toxic level where
Absolute.
it's killing us.
Yeah, literally.
That's resilience is killing us. We have to, and the relationship with resilience needs to change, right? We have to redefine that so that we can redefine balance and self-care and all those other things. Um, so when I think relationship repair and redesign, I am not just talking person to person. I'm talking about the way we name things, the energy we give to certain things, the moving away from denying our experience of this life so that we can just radically accept what it is for us, not calling ourselves lazy. Maybe there's something else going on there. Not saying I'm not good enough. Maybe there's something else going on there. Um, not having like this harsh self talk and improving that relationship with yourself so that you can use compassion as a tool as opposed to a means of being complacent. So
Mm,
our relationship to all of this stuff has to be
yeah,
redefined
yeah.
if we're going to maintain any kind of sense of balance in a real way.
I had to breathe because that was so good, right? You said a lot, but one of the things that stands out to me is that everything revolves around relationship. So whether it's relationship with your workplace or school or your family or loved ones. I just put a post up the other day around we have to do a better job at stewarding relationships, and that doesn't mean that you put yourself last when you steward. When you steward, you have to also know where you fall and that you should be at the top of the list. But I think what you talked about is a lot of times as black and brown people, especially black people, we're always like proving ourselves. Who are we proving ourselves to, right? It's like this idea of I got to work harder, I have to prove myself, and so we burn ourselves out, and like you said, we're literally killing ourselves. So many people are burnt out right now, Dr. Shani, and they're walking around and may not have a name for it. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like?
Yeah, we call it. I'll tell you the the thing that comes to the door the most, no matter what the presenting issue is, folks will say things like, I don't have time to rest, or um, I find myself watching the clock all day. Um, I zone out on my phone when I come home from work because I'm just trying to like steal back some time for myself. All of these are symptoms of burnout, but it's also people's everyday living. Um, I'll ask people what they had for lunch. They don't remember. They don't
Yeah,
remember if they ate or they
right.
don't remember what they ate. So it's like your mind is always in a different place than your body. And you're really just moving. You're just moving through it's in this autopilot place, and they don't even know they're burnt out. They don't know that watching the clock all day, waiting for the day to be over is a sign of burnout. They don't know that when they're numbing on their phone for hours at night, that that is a symptom of burnout. People can't sleep and they wake up and they're already anxious before anything has happened, right? And so all of these are signs of burnout. They don't remember what they had for dinner. It's like, well, are you even enjoying your food? Food is supposed to be pleasurable, but you don't remember what you ate. And that's because your mind is probably already on the next day, or the to-do list that's waiting for you, or the frustration you're going to feel trying to put your kids down, or the meeting that you have coming up in the morning. And so if that is where your mind is when you're supposed to be eating lunch, of course you don't remember what you ate for lunch. So all of that is a sign of burnout, but that is our baseline of how we live.
Yeah, it's our culture.
Mhm.
And I can't remember what they call it, Dr. Shani, but it's something like a hustle bustle culture. Like we're the hustle. Like hustle is real, and you're like rewarded like
Yeah, we glamorized
for
it, we
killing yourself.
romanticized it, but it is no good. It's
It
no
is so unhealthy, and the reality is, it is leading to health issues and poor outcomes in people. So there is a direct correlation between burnout and us overworking and killing ourselves. Um, and our health.
huge correlations between stress, anxiety, and muscle tension, blood pressure issues, which already run, just crazy through our genetic line anyway. It doesn't need any more help with that.
No help.
Um, but it is speeding it up for us. I mean, we are struggling with these things a lot younger.
Dr. Shani, you talked about like African American community, and we sort of been talking about that now. Um, I just wonder if you can talk a little bit about the unique mental health challenges that the African American community faces, and if you can also provide historical context to that too. So something around the effects of intergenerational trauma. But what are the unique mental health challenges that African Americans are facing?
So a couple of terms that come to mind is this idea of learned helplessness, which is the concept is that you're so used to getting smacked around. You're so used to um, feeling disempowered or not having control over positive outcomes that you start to get really, really used to the negative ones. So this study long, long, long time ago, they used dogs in a cage and they would just keep, sparking these dogs with an electric shock, and the dogs would fight to get out. And at some point, they got so used to the shock that once they opened the door to the crate, they did not run away. They just endured the shock and stayed there. And we see that in our community a lot. We see that with voting. We see that with words like too blessed to be stressed, or stress is just a part of life, like you just have to deal with it. Nobody has time for that. Man up, walk it off, right? All of
Got to
these
do
things.
what I got to do.
Got to do what I got to do, right? And all of these things we used to encourage, um, but really what's happening is that we're internalizing those messages and using it to dismiss our experience of things. I even think about parenting when we tell kids, "Hey, listen, you're a child of color, and you're going to have to work 10 times harder to be just as good as everybody else." What that does to a child is they start to internalize the feeling of not good enough, whether we know it or not. And that is where the imposter syndrome issues come up. That feeling like you're a
So good.
fraud
Yeah.
in these spaces, right? Because you're different and you've been taught since you were young that you have to work 10 times harder. So even though we do that thinking that we're giving them a tool and trying to teach them about the world, what you're really saying is no matter what you do, you're not going to be good as the person standing next to you. So when they go into these spaces and they're a minority, they're already carrying that with them. So we have to find another way to teach them about the world that doesn't make them more vulnerable to those same messages. Almost like we're taking the messages that the majority gave us and using it to raise our kids.
That's exactly what we're doing, Dr. Shani.
It's
That's
weird.
exactly what we're doing. It's so Dr. Georgia Gary, I love her research. If you ever heard of her, she talks
Mhm.
about post-traumatic slave syndrome. And what she talks about is the fact that there are a lot of survival skills that we've developed throughout generations so that we could survive. And one of them is using the oppressor tools to stay alive. And there's so many like concrete examples of how we do that today. But I think you named them, right? That's exactly what's happening, where we are trying to, if you think about the years of sustained trauma, and what that's done, it hasn't gone away. The impact it had on our psyche, um, there are still things that we are sort of we're still internalizing. Um, and then the other point I'll make is when we look at like media, the effects that media has on those internalized messages that Black people are aggressive or violent or dumb or lazy, right? You internalize those messages and it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Whether it's in school and kids are learning that Black kids don't do as well, or are not as smart according to statistics, or
Right,
don't graduate high school as much. That perceived bias, actually, research shows that perceived bias leads to poor outcomes, even if the children are just as smart, just
right,
because of that perceived bias.
right, right, right. So I think redefining some of those things and giving, but we know this, right? Like Black clinicians know this. And so when we're sitting in front of us and we can mirror back to each other like, "Hey, you remember when your mom or dad used to say this, and like, how'd that make you feel?" Like, "Well, not
Yeah.
great. I know they were trying to, teach me well." I was like, "Yeah, yeah, they were trying to do the best for you. And how's that working out?" Like, can we replace that talk with something else? But by the time I get them as adults, they've been hearing it and playing it over in their minds so many times. It's a heavy lift to change that belief system. But that is like, that's the work. The work is
Yeah.
to, make sure that people don't understand that what you have believed your whole life, it's not as permanently etched in stone as you think. It just is going to require maybe telling yourself something positive 5 more times every time you tell yourself something negative. That ratio 5 to 1. You can tell yourself 5 times you're good enough. For every time you told yourself you weren't good enough, you can start to shift those neural pathways.
Yes.
Um, you don't have to believe first. You just have to start creating the new messages.
That's so good, Dr. Shani. That's so good. I love that you said that. And tell us more, because some people feel like I don't, like almost like this is the weirdest thing, Dr. Shani, but almost like I gotta be together to go to therapy. Let me get
Yeah.
myself together before. Do we get ourselves together before we go to the ER, or do we go bleeding?
No, this is where
Right?
you do that. This is where you do that. It's just practice. Anything that you learned, you can unlearn. Um, it's not so hard and fast that like this has to be it. It doesn't have to be it. We know we can change, and there might be some limitations to how much we can change. Like I know that there are some thoughts in my head that are just automatic, and I might not be able to stop them from washing over me, but I can stop myself from how deep I dive into them. It can pass me by like a bird. I noticed it, but it's gone now. Like it's there, it happens, but the second I can catch it, then I can change it. Um and that catch and change dynamic, it takes practice. It does, because
Yeah.
you do have to be able to identify it, and then
Mhm.
you have to have the alternative.
Yeah.
Um but it is possible. You just have to catch yourself in those habits, and then you have to be committed to, "I don't want this habit anymore. Someone gave it to me. I didn't want it.
So
I
good.
return to sender. I don't want it anymore.
Return to sender.
I want a different one now. I want one that serves me better now."
That's so good. Wow. That's a pause moment right there. That's a like return to sender. And what I love about what you said is you have a choice. You're not powerless as we might feel by trauma and circumstances and oppression. We're not. We have the power to choose. And what's incredible is our brain has the power to form new neural pathways.
All the time. All
Yeah.
the time. It just takes the it's a commitment, and I know people get scared of that because it's like, "Oh my gosh, this is gonna be hard work," and then some people get really anxious and overwhelmed about that, like, how much work is this actually going to take? It just depends on the habit, and it depends on how much you're married to the habit too. Um, but if it's something that you decide, I used to tell myself all the time, "I'm not a morning person." I used to say that, "I'm not a morning person. I'm not a morning person." So I was never a morning person. I was never productive in the morning. Well, since kids, I've had to become a morning person.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now I tell myself, um, I actually do enjoy getting up in the morning. I have more time when I get up before everybody else. I have more time to myself when I get up before everybody else. I have now coached myself into being a morning person.
Morning person. See
I
that?
didn't succumb to that, to me getting up late, being late for everything, and then the whole day is washed because I'm dragging all day. Nope, I get up early before everybody else because I want my alone time. I don't wanna
Period.
have to start giving juice as soon as I wake up. I wanna, like,
Period.
get myself together first. So
Yeah.
now I have taught myself just by saying, "You know what, Sean? If you get up early before everybody else, you get to have this thing for yourself. You get to see the sunrise. You get to have your tea before everyone else starts bothering you. You get to decompress before you start seeing clients. Wouldn't that be nice?" And at first I was like, "Not
Yeah.
really. I want my sleep." But over time, I really started to feel the benefits of that. I did not have to believe it first. I just had to
Mhm.
try it out for a while and watch it work for me. And now I'm committed to that.
So
But I
good.
didn't have to believe it first.
You don't have to believe first. You just have to be willing. And
Yeah, when I
that's so
say Are you good enough? And people go, I don't believe I'm good enough. All right. I don't need you to believe it. I just need
Yeah.
you to start making choices against the old one and let's see how it goes, you know?
Yes. Oh, that's so powerful. I love this. So tell us what are some things we can do to increase or improve our mental health? Therapy, of course, is something we always recommend, but what are some everyday things or life decisions or choices we can make to have better quality lives and more balanced well-being and mindsets?
I find the suffering and make a rule around that. And what I mean by that is like I start with the basics. Wake up and do a scan. Just do a little body scan. How are you feeling? Are your shoulders tight? Is your head hurting? Are you nervous? Are you hungry? Do you need a shower to wake up? Like just do the scan. And then for every suffering, take care. I'm hungry. All right. Well, maybe the first thing I need to do right now is eat something.
Yes.
Um, my shoulders are really tense. I must have slept wrong. Okay, take 5 minutes and stretch your back out for a second before you start your day. So if you just pause, take a pause button, scan your whole body, and I mean thoughts, feelings, aches, pains, whatever, and then find the level of care that you need for each thing. I'm lonely. Okay, that means you need people. Call somebody, get on the phone, text somebody, ask them how they're doing, invite somebody to lunch. Maybe talk to a few more coworkers that day than you normally do. Um, I'm feeling really tired. Okay, rest. Prioritize that and treat it like it matters. No, none of this. I'm lazy. I have too much to do. There's too much work on my plate. If I take a nap right now, it's going to build up. Nope. Rest is the suffering. Manage it. Those tiny little things. Eat when you're hungry. Sleep when you're sleepy. Shower when you're feeling icky. Like just all of those things matters. That's care. That's care. I know everybody's like, oh, self care, go get your mani, go get your pedi. Okay, sometimes that's not accessible to us. But what is rest, water, hopefully,
Right.
you eat, hopefully.
Right.
And really just the ability to keep your mind inside of your body, like be present and no more denial of our experiences. If you are hungry and you don't eat, that is abandonment of self. That is
That's
neglect.
so good.
It's neglect. You don't need another person to heal neglect and abandonment wounds. All you need to do is identify the pain point and then identify the level of care that you need and provide it to yourself. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait for somebody to hand you that key. Um, Tiny little things in your day to day can make a difference.
Oh, that was so good. And I just wanted to add to that. Sometimes we're to identify what we're feeling and what we're experiencing. That is sometimes foreign to us because we have been trained to ignore and to bleed out and to wait till we are at the end of the rope to actually start to feel. By then, we had a breakdown. But if we're doing the things that you're saying, Dr. Shawnee, every day, taking a moment to pause and listen to what we're feeling, to how whether we're hungry, whether we need to take a moment and pause. If we're doing those things intentionally daily, we are actually improving our mental health and our quality of life and our health and our relationships. And
All
then
of
we
it
can
trickles from
be,
there. Yes,
yes, yeah. And then we can be the best version of ourselves to the world, to our families, to our communities. When we prioritize us and we can identify what we're feeling, but also give ourselves what we need.
for sure.
Dr. Shawnee, this has been extremely incredible. I know we had just such a short time, but you have a private practice and you're in the DMV area.
Yep,
How
I'm
can
licensed
people
in
reach
Maryland
you?
and Virginia. I haven't. I like my email best as I'm most responsive through my email. So it's Dr. Shani Glaude, DrShaniGlaude at gmail.com. And I get to people pretty quickly through my email. So if anyone wants to reach out, and I always tell people if I don't have room for them, I will help them find someone who does. So it's never a bad idea to reach out, even if I'm not accepting new clients. I'll at least get someone in touch with someone who can help more quickly than I can.
Thank you, Dr. Shawnee. And then just a reminder of what What do you specialize in for those that might need that information as well?
Yep. So, relationships is something that I spend a lot of time training in. I also do trauma work. I also do transitional focuses. So, new parents, new marriages, new jobs, breakups, any major deaths, loss, any major transitions that people have difficulty navigating, um, and anxiety in parenting.
Excellent. She does everything pertaining to life. Dr. Shani, you're an incredible gift to our industry, to mental health, and I'm so happy that our paths crossed. That I had the opportunity to share this space with you, learn about your incredible work. I would love to continue this conversation, another fireside in the future. And if
Sure.
you're ever in the Georgia area, we got to bring you in studio.
Oh, I'd love to. That'd be great.
We'd love to have you. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Shani.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you all for watching and for listening, for tuning in. Do us a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel at iRaise.org so that you are one of the first to be notified whenever there are new episodes like this. This month, we're bringing new speakers and guests like Dr. Shawnee to come in and talk about their expertise and ways that we can raise awareness around mental health and our communities. Remember, you matter, your mental health matters. And like Dr. Shawnee said, you don't have to believe, you just have to be willing. Thank you all. Stay tuned and happy Mother's